to the next area. Come on. If you ask what is the best way to manage the forex risk, uh, come on, this is a very generic statement. A risk is, the source of risk is your lack of knowledge about the future. The source of risk is lack of knowledge about the future. So if anyone is able to know what's going to happen in the future, the risk is zero. So the best way for someone to manage the forex risk is know what's going to be the forex rate in the future. So that's where the forecasting comes in. So if you are able to accurately forecast what's going to be the exchange rate, most of your risk is gone. Come on, because you know what's going to be the exchange rate. You will make decisions accordingly. So when it comes to forecasting, there are two schools of disciplines, how people forecast the exchange rate. One called technical analysis, it's also called as chartist approach, because people use charts and they predict what's going to happen. I mean, they use the past movement of the charts to predict what's going to happen to the exchange rate in the future. So this is called chartist approach or technical analysis. The second branch is called fundamental analysis. Fundamental analysis. Now, people use economic fundamentals or some logics, economics or the logics to predict what going to happen to the exchange rate. And one of such logic is called, interest rate parity theory. Let's take two countries, let's take USA and UK, and I'll take today's exchange rate, the spot exchange rate. Today, £1 is equivalent to $1.5. So which means someone having £1,000 in UK, this is equivalent to 1,500 in US dollars. Imagine in US the interest rate is 10%. In UK, let's say it's 7%. So because the interest rate in UK is less than USA, so what would the people will do is they tend to borrow in UK and convert that into dollars and invest in US. So they borrow at 7% in UK and invest in US at 10%. So after one period, your investment will be now grown to this value. So it's going to be $1,650, and this is going to be £1,070. So you have to settle 1,070 from the UK bank to the UK bank, from where you borrowed the pound, but you got 1,650 in your dollar account. Now, provided if there is no connection between interest rates and the exchange rate is going to be the same. So if that's the case, I will convert 1,650 using the exchange rate. It's going to be 1,100. So I will settle 1,070 from this 1,100, and £30 going to be my profit. Wonderful deal, isn't it? If there is no connection between interest rate and the exchange rate, come on, in this example, exchange rate has to remain the same. So I can smartly plan a borrowing in UK where the interest rate is 7 and invest in US. So I'll have $1,615 where I have to settle only £1,070. So I'm going to convert this 1,650 at the exchange rate. So I have 1,100 if you do that, and you can settle only 1,070, and the balance 30 going to be your gain. Now imagine if you have borrowed 1 trillion, you'll be a trillionaire, isn't it? Come on. You're going to end up with a huge amount of gain. If you borrow 1,000, you're ending up with 30. So if you would have borrowed 1 trillion, can you imagine this figure? So you're gonna end up with a huge gain. So you can't let this happen. So there is an argument, therefore this interest rate should offset the possibility of making this gain. So theorists argue, therefore this exchange rate after this period cannot be 1.5. Instead, it should have changed to a figure so that if you convert this 1,650, you should end up with the same figure, and thereby the opportunity to make gain should be made to 0. So what is that figure? Now if you divide 1650 by 1070, the figure is 1.542. So it's argued, therefore the exchange rate should be 1 pound should be equivalent to this many dollars. So provided the exchange rate is moving from 1.5 to 1.5420, then the opportunity to make the gain is closed. So believing in this theory, so theoretically the exchange rate has to change from 1.5 to 1.542. So theoretically the change in the exchange rate should be equivalent to the difference in the interest rates. As you see here, the interest rate here is 10, it's 7. So if you calculate the difference between 1.5 and 1.542, the change should be around 3%. So the argument of interest rate parity theory, it says, therefore, in order to avoid people exploiting this advantage in the market, interest rate parity theory argues exchange rate must change by interest rate differentials. In other words, you are always given this formula. The expected future rate should be equal to the spot rate multiplied by the two interest rates. Now since the spot rate is 1.5, it's dollar per pound, you can use 1 plus R, dollar 1 plus R pound. So 1.5 multiplied by R, the interest rate for dollar is 10%, so 1.1 over 1.07. So that will give you 1.542. So that's the argument for interest rate parity theory, which argues the expected future spot rate should be equivalent to spot rate now, provided the spot rate is A per B, spot rate multiplied by 1 plus interest rate over 1 plus interest rates of B. So let's try this example now. A Canadian company is expecting to receive Kuwaiti dinars in 1 year time. The spot rate is 5.4670. So the spot rate is 5.4670 Canadian dollar per Kuwaiti dinar. Now this should be multiplied by, the company could borrow in Kuwaiti dinar at 9% per annum, or in Canadian dollar at 14% per annum. So calculate the estimated forward exchange rate in 1 year time. So I'm going to do 1 plus R, 1 plus R, 1 plus Canadian dollar, 1 plus Kuwaiti dinar here. So 5.4670 multiplied by is 14, so 1.14 over 1.09 will be the answer. So this is going to be the expected rate after 1 year. So we can use the two interest rates for the purpose of forecasting the future exchange rate. Now if this theory is right, you are able to predict the exchange rate with perfection. There's another side of argument, economists argue in the similar manner. Another factor that decides the exchange rate is purchasing power. So it is the inflation that decides the exchange rate. The formula is very similar to the interest rate parity theory. Here we take the spot rate and multiply this by 1 plus R. So this time instead of R we're going to go with inflation rate of country A, 1 plus inflation rate of country B, provided exchange rate is given on an A per B note. So purchasing power parity theory argues it is the inflation that decides the exchange rate. So if we go by this theory, we can use inflation rate to predict the exchange rate. For example, the spot rate between UK sterling and Danish krona is 1 pound is equivalent to krona 8. Assuming there's a purchasing power parity now, a product costing 110 in UK will cost 880 krona in Denmark. The inflation in UK is 8% and it's 5% in Denmark, so it's going to be super simple. Come on, the spot rate is 8 krona per pound. So you can take 8 krona per pound, multiply this by 1 plus 5 percentage over 1 plus 8 percentage. So I'll multiply 8 by 1.05 divided by 1.08 will give you 7.77 krona per pound. So interest rate or inflation rate to convert the spot rate into expected future rates. So if your ideology is right, come on, if the theory that interest rates and inflation rates are the dominant factor that decides the exchange rate, then you can trust your forecast.